not that this has anything to do with the contract or the purchase of this property, but where are we in terms of, we had talked months back that the repairs on that tank were going to be, there were some extensive things that needed to be done, some temporary things that were need to be done, blah, blah, blah. Have you looked at, and this is just a question, the feasibility of just completely building a new storage and eliminating the need to take that tank and rebuild it?
There has been in past budgets,
Yeah.
in the projected 5-year capital outlay, the need for a new ground storage tank at that facility and where it may be located.
Right.
And that was one of these targets that continues to move based upon our, well, two things. One, certainly the structural integrity of the existing tanks, but clearly the other issue is the demand on our system and what the regulations require that we have to have for storage in our system.
Right.
So the intent was to replace both tanks, which have a total capacity of 1.5 million gallons, with a new storage reservoir of equal or greater size at that facility.
And I know how we pump the water down there to that storage pump. Is that parcel there, the Flores property, could we incorporate our pond into that parcel, or is that, and free up that acreage down there?
The short, quick answer is probably not.
Yeah, it's not large enough.
The approximate size of the pond on the 66 acres is around 10 acres.
Yeah.
When you talk about the embankment and the berming and the area outside of it, it's something larger than that. So to say that we could do away with the one to free up that property for sale or transfer and put it on this one, the answer is probably not enough acreage to do that, because if you looked at that parcel, we, by choice, we built that pond up on what was the highest region of that parcel as opposed to the lowest. And the Flores property, while I have not walked it, it's probably similar in nature to our property, and if you move north of the property, it does drop off and get lower. But clearly, when we start talking about a 120-foot diameter storage tank, that does free up those options if we had that parcel with where we could put that storage tank without impacting our current operation.
And again, this doesn't have anything to do with the contract, but we've talked about that tank in the past, and is there not a better location for that tank than right there on the road where it's at? Would it be better to put it further to the back, or put it?
No, the location of the property, I don't know that it really matters whether it's on the front or the back. It's just a matter of being able to tie it in piping wise and high service pumps. But what we do have on the current tanks is we do have the majority of our high service pumps located on that facility. That's where the clear well is, and we can pump out in the distribution system. So clearly, whatever we build, we'll have to incorporate some high service pumps or moving our existing pumps if they're capable of moving to that new reservoir. And whether it moves back on our property, north end of it, or to the west, it's 6 of one and a half dozen of the other. But clearly, it's going to require a fairly large footprint for a 2 million gallon ground storage tank.
And Tom, is Mr. Flores expecting a response from the board immediately, or have you spoke with him about the need to bring it to the board and be a lapse in time? Or did he express one way or another how quick he would like to get this done?
What are you asking me?
Is he anticipating something like immediate, a sale, or does he understand that, there would be a little like?
he understands it's gonna require board action.
Right.
To even get the contract approved. Now,
Right.
that was one of the reasons to try and get this thing agreed on. I met with him Thursday, I think it was, or
Right.
Friday. When did I meet with him, John?
I
Anyhow,
think
fairly
it was
recently.
Thursday, yeah.
It was Thursday that I
Yeah.
met with him to finalize these things, and I told him that, A, it was gonna be contingent on
Wednesday.
approval and had to be
Wednesday.
presented to the board, and I was gonna try to do it at this meeting.
Yeah.
That it might not occur at this meeting, but there's no time frame set in here for acceptance.
Okay. Well, we have a signed contract that he asked for.
Well, right now, I have a signed contract on his behalf.
Right.
When I make revision to it, it's gonna be a counter proposal going back to him.
Right.
We will not have a binding agreement. And I would not take an agreement back to him unless you all approve of what I'm sending back to him.
Right.
So I would say it would be after the April meeting before I present to him a counter proposal.
Right. Okay. That's all I had. You can go back to your election of votes.
We have a motion to table this until the other board members can be up to snuff with what's going on. We have
Until the April
an
meeting.
April meeting, and at that time, all the revisions, as requested by Mr. Hoover, be put in place and presented to Mr. Flores. Okay. We had a motion, we had a discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, just before we leave that subject, other than Tom preparing a counter proposal and bringing it back to the board for consideration and adoption or not, is there anything that you need from me in that proposal? You talk about the new board members getting up to speed. Certainly I can make the offer to any board member to give them a tour of our surface water plant and looking at the adjoining property, if that's something that would be a favor, or is there anything else required of me before the next board meeting?
Would the new members like to have a tour of the adjoining property?
I've done it. I've done it, yeah. I'll go for a ride with you.
Is there anything else you would need from me before the next meeting?
I think that, you know, it just is maybe squelch some apprehension that, you know, beef up or explain to them the need and how it's been explained in the past and how this would be beneficial, not so much next week, next year, but as we plan for, you know, eternity in a government entity. And the purchase of this site, you know, which adjoins our property. I think that would probably clarify some of the apprehension that maybe some of them might have.
Okay, well, we'll get that all done before the next meeting.
Anything from the board members at this time?
Yeah, when's our next payment? We
Payment for
we have 2 payments a year on our debt.
For the SRF,
Yeah,
we have 2 SRF loans, and we just did a wire transfer yesterday for the.
I thought we were gonna discuss, paying down the debt before we did our next payment, the way I understood that the last time.
I can let Basil step in, but we can make an early payment, yes, we can.
No, I mean, I thought the way I understood it, before we made our next payment, we were gonna discuss if we wanted to add money to it, or is the way I thought that was done.
Forgive me if that was, it completely slipped my mind on that, so, we can have those, I mean, we can have a discussion now, certainly look at adding that payment and getting a.
Let's look back and see if what, I think there was a motion made, and that's what we decided to do.
Bring it back.
and bring it back so that we can make sure that we're following it.
That's right, because we decided not to make
Right.
yearly payment and
And
to
then
look
we
at
were
it, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the way it went.
February or March, yeah, I remember that now.
We'll bring that back to
Bring
the
it back
April
to
meeting.
the April meeting.
Yeah, we'll look into it, bring it back for consideration.
Any other board members? All said and done. Meeting adjourned, ladies and gentlemen.